Welcome to Invisible Dimensions, where we share our mystical, paranormal, and supernatural encounters. The year was 1995, a time when private schools were nearly non existent in our country. Our school, St. Mary's Girls Boarding Primary School, was among the very best public schools in the region. Children of the wealthy and affluent, dignitaries, as well as high ranking government officials flooded the school. We also had pupils from neighboring countries like Uganda, Tanzania, Ethiopia, Sudan, Rwanda, and even as far as from South Africa. Then there were children of poor working class citizens like me. Our school was indeed a melting pot of many cultures and various classes and backgrounds. Lily, an intelligent grade 8 girl who came from a middle class family, was the school's index one. Very bright, a shining star. No one in her class, as well as from neighboring schools, could beat her in exams. Neighboring schools sometimes sat joint exams with our school to gauge their performance. Lily always emerged top. Then there was Nora, fairly daft, but from a very affluent family, a grade 7 pupil who was Lily's best friend. People were surprised that the two of them were actually friends. They had nothing in common. Nora was always well provided for. She hardly ever ate the basic meals that we other pupils ate from the school dining hall. She always had cartons of biscuits, milk, sweets, crisps, bottles of juices, among other snacks. She had more than enough money to buy the whole school canteen if she had wanted to. Then her parents would visit her on most weekends, bringing her home cooked food, even though the school had 2 days per every term specifically designated for visiting. Nora, therefore, was quite the celebrity, making friends with many girls from grades both higher and lower than her. Amongst the bevy of girls that followed her around and waited on her every whim, Lily was her favorite. When not in class, they were always seen together. They also shared a dormitory. Although they slept on the same floor, their beds were quite a distance apart, with many other girls sleeping in between them. It was therefore strange that Nora could jump all those other girls and ask Lily to escort her to the toilets at night, leaving even the girl who slept above her on the top bunk. In those days, our school didn't have the modern day lavatories. There were no shower rooms or toilets attached to the dormitories, but they were secluded as separate buildings. In fact, for toilets, we only had pit latrines, which were always dug quite a distance from any other amenities. This was because of the high population of pupils that would make the pits fill up fast, and of course, however much they were washed, they stank so bad. Every single night, without fail, Nora would wake up Lily to escort her to the pit latrines. The pit latrines area was not well lit at night, and because we feared darkness, most of us would just be on the lawn adjacent to the dormitory. None of us wanted to go all the way in the darkness to the latrines for such a simple call of nature like peeing. Of course, this was not allowed, but we did it discreetly anyway. One night, Lily escorted Nora to the latrines, as usual. The latrines had doors, but we hardly closed them when in. We mostly could conduct our business with the doors wide open. What we could do was ask a friend to stand as a veil in the doorway, their backs to whoever was in the toilet, stretching out their skirts. This way, no one outside could see the one on the inside. Of course, this favor was always expected to be returned immediately. On this night, Nora entered the latrine as usual and Lily took her place by the door as expected, just in case other people joined them. It was all quiet. Suddenly, Lily heard this eerie, loud, guttural growl behind her that made her quickly jump away in shock. She immediately turned around to see her longtime friend Nora completely transformed into something between an animal and a human lunge at her. Lily, in spite of being horrified, managed to let out one blood curdling scream that broke into the quiet of the night before she passed out. By good luck, one of the security guards was on patrol nearby, and on hearing the scream, ran towards where it had come from, flashing his bright torch in that direction. The guard was just in time to make out a figure lying on the ground with another bending over it. The figure bending over looked up and, blinded by the flashlight, showed a little confusion and slowly retreated into the latrine. It was now the security guard's turn to scream. Never in his adult life had he ever seen such a menacing, grotesque creature. He kept screaming his lungs out, calling for help from a safe distance. He was soon joined by other guards, cooks, and the school matrons who had assumed that maybe the school was under attack. Because of the commotion, the whole school woke up and the pupils were now peering through the windows from the safety of their dormitories. No one who turned up could speak once they understood the situation. It was a sight from a horror movie. Hiding in the latrine was this horribly ugly figure, and lying some distance on the ground from it was the girl, passed out. The school staff, lights flashing, didn't know what to do. The staff, after consulting amongst themselves, dispatched one guard and the head matron, Matron Mary, to go and fetch the headmistress, a nun, Sister Gabriella, who stayed in the convent. Those of you who went to St. Mary's know that what separates the school from the sisters' convent is just a thin fence. In fact, they share the same main gate. One has to go through the school first to get to the convent. Right at the entrance of the convent, there's this huge chapel. Then the sisters' cemetery right behind the chapel. The cemetery is separated from the girls' dormitories by a live cypress fence. There's a small gate that connects the school's boarding section with the convent through the cemetery. It was a shortcut if one didn't want to use the main gate. Running as fast as old age could allow, Matron Mary led the way. As the head matron, she kept a key for the small gate for emergencies. She fumbled for the key around her neck, opened the connecting gate, together with the security guard, ran through the cemetery to wake up Sister Gabriella. In a short while, Sister Gabriella, accompanied by a good number of other nuns, were on the school ground. After registering shock just as much as the others had done, the nuns agreed this was beyond them. They had no capacity to handle it. They quickly agreed to fetch the parish priest. The priest's residence lies on the other side of the school, only separated by a concrete wall. Unlike the convent that had a connecting gate, for one to get to the priest's house, they had to use the school's main gate, enter the cathedral compound, walk some distance before making it to the compound that hosts the priests. Sister Gabriella, weighing just how serious and dangerous the whole situation was, decided to go fetch the priests herself. She couldn't delegate. Accompanied by two security guards, they literally ran and were at the priest's gate in no time. They pounded on the gate hard, rousing the watchman from sleep. He let them in and helped to awaken the priests. There were three priests and one deacon. Under the direction of the parish priest, they hurriedly put on the vestments, rushed into the church. After unlocking it, took out the monstrance from the tabernacle on the altar, took the crucifix and holy water. The deacon headed the procession with the sanctus bell, ringing it from time to time. The parish priest followed with the monstrance, exposing the blessed sacrament. The two other priests followed, one sprinkling holy water with an aspergillum and the other carrying the crucifix. The nuns formed two lines behind the priests, tightly clutching their rosaries, chanting the Lorica. I arise today, thou almighty strength, the invocation of the Trinity, through belief in threeness, through confession of the oneness of the Creator of creation. Arise today, Christ with me, Christ before me, Christ behind me, Christ beneath me, Christ above me, Christ on my right, Christ on my left, Christ when I lie down, Christ when I arise, Christ when I sit down, Christ in the heart. And went on and on and on and on. I do not know what transpired, but the men and women of God managed to coax Nora out of the latrine. Out in the light, they could now see her properly. Her eyes were fiery, ears elongated, her teeth looked like fangs. There were sharp claws on both her toes and fingers. Hair now grew all over her body. Apart from a few menacing growls, once in a while, she was strangely obedient. Nobody touched her. The priests, talking to her gently, gave her instructions to follow them, and she did. The procession slowly made it out of the boarding section, the security guards securely locking the gates behind them. There were two empty classrooms not in use just by the school's main gate. One was opened and Nora ordered to get in. The door was then securely locked from the outside. Some of the security guards, the deacon, one priest, and a few nuns offered to keep watch for the remainder of the night, as the others dispersed to go get some sleep. All this while, Lily was yet to come to. Luckily, through the convent, there was a small gate that connected to the mission hospital. She was carried there and placed under observation. As the commotion outside died down, we pupils were ordered by the matrons to go back to sleep. We knew something was terribly wrong, but no one could enlighten us that night, the matrons having been warned not to tell us anything. The school routine went on as though nothing had happened. We woke up at 5 a.m. as usual, scrambled for the bathrooms, routinely had our porridge for breakfast, and by 6 in the morning, we were quietly settled in our classrooms. I'll be lying if I say there was any studying that went on that early morning. There was a lot of chatter concerning what had transpired that night, with many theories emerging. We only came to learn of the truth later. At a time when there were no mobile phones, by 7 o'clock, Nora's parents were already in the school. No one had called them. In fact, they walked in just when the headmistress was settling down in her office, about to call them on the landline. They were pretty normal human beings, nothing strange about them. They had explained to Sister Gabriela that they had only come to pick their daughter. Afraid to be in an enclosed space alone with them, the headmistress hastily showed them where Nora was. Nora was dejectedly sitting in a corner, still halfly transmuted. The headmistress watched in shock as Nora's parents ran to her and fondly hugged her, holding her tightly. It was as though they saw nothing wrong with her. The dad, pushed by Sister Gabriela, who was standing in the doorway, ran to the parking lot and brought their car near the main gate, right outside the classroom in which Nora was. By this time, most of us pupils, somehow having gotten wind of what was going on, had run to the school parking lot and were watching from a safe distance. There were teachers as well as other supporting staff present. Huddled between her mom and dad, Nora appeared. I don't think any of us were prepared for what we saw. Most of us screamed in horror. Alarmed by the commotion, confused, Nora let out one loud howl before being dragged by her parents into the car. They hastily exited the school compound. A group of people neighboring the school had gathered outside the school gate, hoping to catch a glimpse of Nora themselves. The night guards, who came from the community themselves, had spread the news like a fire. It was a while before we people settled back down in our classrooms, but there was no learning that day. The school was a beehive of activities. People from the Ministry of Education came. There were hordes of reporters, but of course, by then, there was nothing to see. The school wanted the whole issue hushed because they were afraid for their good name, which they had made for over 8 years. The atmosphere was tense. Lily's parents had been called. Coming from the capital and having used public means, they made it to the school in the late afternoon. They were taken to the hospital where Lily had been admitted. She never came back to school when she left the hospital. We lost two peoples that day. No, not to death, but to something that even up to today we can't put a name to. Lily was so traumatized that we were told she hardly ever speaks, with a lost look in her eyes. She barely remembers her family members. The life of an intelligent, bright young girl flushed down the drain, just like that. On the other hand, no one ever heard from Nora nor her parents again. St. Mary's Girls Boarding Primary School stands today, yearly churning out young, impressionable girls into the system. I bet no one remembers that a half human, half animal girl was ever there. Have you yourselves encountered any mystical beings? We would love to hear your experiences. Please like, share, and subscribe to help our channel grow.